All right, everybody. April 21st, 2016. Big week. We got big photos coming up. And guess what? Jack's back with great information. Things are happening again on the ranch. You know, last week and the last couple months of Jack, he's been producing a lot of evidence. And today we got crystal clear, metallic UFOs. Blake's here, and we're going to go over Jack's testimony right now and drill him for some details. Hey, Jack, you here?
Yes, sir, I am.
All right.
Thanks for having me again on the show.
Thank you, Jack. It's been a pleasure having you, and it's been a pleasure you sharing your evidence. Tell us about what you gave us today.
Well, this one, it really did throw me for a loop. I was up early this morning and doing the usual things. I was looking in on the animals, feeding the horses and whatnot. And I saw, at first I thought it was some kind of a puff of smoke, or I don't know what I thought it was. It looked peculiar, but it didn't really have much of a form to it. And it was quite a ways away when I first saw it. And maybe about 20 seconds later, it had approached in a way where I did not notice that it was traveling, but it almost seemed to have appeared several thousand yards closer in a matter of seconds. And that is what first startled me, and it for surely caught my attention. And from that point on, I did not take my eyes off of this thing. But I must say, I was absolutely petrified as I looked at this sort of almost living robotic. I really don't know what kind of a monstrosity this thing was, except for the top of the thing where there was some kind of plasma light emitting from it, which it scared the living crap out of me and almost seemed to have an awareness to it, because as I stared at it, it seemed to give off some type of a recognition. I felt like as if the thing was looking at me and was almost trying to intercept me in some way, trying to lock on with my mind in some sort. I felt almost paralyzed by this object, and I was absolutely terrified.
Yeah, Jack, Blake Cousins here. I have to say, some people might classify this object, whatever you're saying, as a humanoid.
It had features that were certainly like that of a living organism, somewhat like a jellyfish, with some kind of a robotic, organic head structure on the top of it.
Something
so I would say, yes, it had some kind of a humanoid portion of the object, did have that resemblance, yes.
So, Jack, let's get back to this figure, whatever it is. It seems wispy, as you would say. You got a close-up look at this thing. What do you think this was? You said you were terrified. What were you doing at the time?
Well, I was tending to the animals, like I always do, and I was standing there gazing at the object in absolute terror. I must say, I was more petrified than I have ever been. And my dog was there with me. He was looking at it too for a couple of seconds, and he went and ran into the barn. And I stood there gazing at the object, and I could not move. I wanted to run and follow that dog into the barn. I was thinking to myself, I want to run away. And I could not move. And so it must have been for another 30 or 40 seconds that I stood there paralyzed until the object must have released a hold on me, or maybe I came back to my senses. I don't know, but I had the sudden ability to move, and I did. I ran straight for that barn, and I went into the barn, and I went behind the second horse stall, and I crouched down in absolute fear for quite some time, maybe 4 or 5 minutes. I was in there with the dog, and we was both huddling on the floor. He was in the corner shaking and not making a sound. And this dog, he barks at all kinds of things. He barks at the birds. He barks and chases the animals. And he barks when he wants to eat in the morning. And this dog was absolutely silent throughout this whole event. And that's something that was also very peculiar. I believe that this dog sensed something in the object that absolutely paralyzed him in a way that it did to me as well.
So, Jack, you captured this craft. I call it a humanoid entity, a black figure. It doesn't seem friendly. And then, what happens next?
Well, after I was in the barn for a few minutes, I finally mustered up the courage to pull the camera out of my pocket, and I went to one of the windows on the side of the barn, and I slowly peered outside to see if the object was still there, and it was. And I felt as if it knew where I was, and perhaps it was there waiting for me. And I was very uneasy still. But I was really wanting to capture a picture of this thing. And so I started to try to snap shots, but the angle from where I was inside of the barn, I couldn't get a clear picture through this dusty old window. So I managed to go back out the back door, come around the corner, and quickly snap a shot, holding the camera around the corner, snapping a couple of shots. And the one shot that I did capture of the object is the one that I sent to you. I was waving the camera around because I was so shook up. I was afraid to step out behind the corner and actually see where I was pointing the camera. So I just was snapping pictures, holding the camera out there. And then after a few snapshots, I ran back into the barn, and I stayed there for another couple of minutes. Right about that time, the sun was just about all the way up at this time. When I first noticed the object, the sun was not all the way out at that time, and it was a little bit dark still. And so, but by the time I came back outside the second time, it was light outside, and I saw that thing very clearly, and it was very, very close. I would say less than 200 yards away, and it hovered there for another couple of seconds, and a very, very large metallic ship came in the direction of the object. And quite frankly, I felt, even though this second object was also very peculiar, I felt very relieved at that time, because it seemed as though as soon as the second object began to approach this monstrosity, it immediately left the area. In the same way that it had appeared, it didn't seem to move in a normal way. It seemed to almost disappear in a direction. The metallic object was only there for a couple of seconds after the other object disappeared. So did the metallic object. It flew away in a way that was more conventional, in a way that was not so startling. And so by that time, I actually was feeling much better, and I began to snap a few more pictures with my camera. I got several decent pictures of that metallic object when it was in close, right as it came in.
You notice one of the shots that as it's behind the hills there, so this thing's got to be quite large. How big do you think it was?
I would say it was well over 100 feet of a wingspan on that ship. And yes, it was very, very large. And but it did not strike fear in me the way that the first object did. The second object really brought calm to me. I don't know why I felt so relieved when it arrived. Perhaps it's because the other thing left as soon as the second object appeared. And so in my mind, it was as though the second object had come to my rescue, because that first object gave me the kind of fear that I have never felt. And I have never had my body be so out of my control. I could not move for a very long time, for a minute or two.
Wow, so now we got two different kinds of extraterrestrial beings, interdimensional beings, visiting Jack and his ranch. And this just happens. When did this happen? Within 24 hours? You're contacting
Yes, sir. This happened this morning.
Man, and you're still composed to talk and send this and take our calls and share this to the world. Jack,
well, I felt much better after seeing that second ship. I'll tell you, had that second ship not appeared there, I don't know what might have happened. Mm-hmm. I was not composed in the first part of this incident. I can tell you that.
Whatever this second event happened, it sounds like they were there to help. They were one of the good guys. One of the good guys was there. And then you have this other thing. Could there be a war going on over there? And why is it there? Why are you seeing these things? This is
why here?
We gotta find this out.
Here? Why are all of these objects descending on my area around here? That I do not understand.
Jack, we're gonna put the photos out. We're gonna put them out to the world right now. And you know, we gotta end this call so I could get to editing, putting your photos, sharing it to the world. Can I give you a call back in about an hour? We'll put this up, and I'm hoping that maybe we could get some answers from the public. And I want to talk to you some more. I want to get those other photos so we can share those as well. Jack, let's set this up later.
Okay, that will be fine.
All right, thanks, Jack. Okay, let's get to it. Everybody, stay tuned. More photos from Jack's ranch. And share this breaking news right now. Keep your eyes on the skies, everybody. We're not alone.
Flight, can you hear me? Flight, can you hear me? Flight, can you hear me? Flight, can you hear me?
A pleasure having you, and it's been a pleasure you sharing your evidence. Tell us about what you gave us today.
Well, this one, it really did throw me for a loop. I was up early this morning and doing the usual things. I was looking in on the animals, feeding the horses and whatnot. And
he's been producing a lot of evidence, and today we got crystal clear metallic UFOs. Blake's here, and we're going to go over Jack's testimony right now and drill him for some details. Hey, Jack, you here?
Yes, sir, I am.
All right,
thanks for having me again on the show.
Thank you, Jack. It's been
And I saw, at first I thought it was some kind of a puff of smoke, or I don't know what I thought it was. It it looked peculiar, but it didn't really have much of a form to it. And it was quite a ways away when I first saw it. And maybe about 20 seconds later, it had approached in a way where I did not notice that it was traveling, but it almost seemed to have appeared several.
All right, everybody. April 21st, 2016. Big week. We got big photos coming up. And guess what? Jack's back with great information. Things are happening again on the ranch. You know, last week and the last couple months of Jack